work, driving, all those fun things. Not complaining, not saying anything bad or anything like that, but I originally wanted to go through Zephaniah, and I started studying it, and I'm like, I can't do this in 2 days. There's no way no way my study time's going to fit in 2 days for Zephaniah. So I kind of thought back as to what we've been talking about, and we've talked a lot about loving one another and things like that, and we've talked a lot about a lot of theological things, used a lot of big theological terms and things of that nature, so on and so forth. And none of those things are bad, but this lesson actually may be a little bit better, hearing some of the requests. It may fit this morning. We're going to talk about hope this morning. Maybe something a little more lighter, happy, but I will say, to have hope, you have to have despair. You have to start with something sad so you can move to hope. But anyways, we're going to be in the book of Ruth this morning. I started the book of Ruth at Bible Baptist, and I did the first chapter, and I was going to go through the whole book. I never did, and I thought about, why not pick it back up? And so this morning, the intention, kind of how I have my outline laid out, is I really just want to follow the story. What is the story saying? Not give any big punchlines or anything like that. Nothing too harsh. I really just want to follow the story. Ruth is a very narrative book. It flows very well. You're not jumping around. You're not really teaching any specific doctrine. It's just the story of people's lives. That's really all it is. But it highlights something in the future that we have, and so we can relate to it quite well. But I'm assuming we're all familiar with the story of Ruth. And it follows a family, starts with a family, and they move because of a famine. And when they move to Moab, and I'm already telling the story. I'm getting ahead of myself, but they move to Moab, and they live there for a few years. People pass away, and then they move back, and we're introduced to one of the key folks in this book, who this book is named after, is Ruth. And through this, there's a lot of interesting things with Ruth. Most of us know she's in the genealogy of Christ. And there's another interesting thing. She's not a Jew. She's a Moabite. And we'll get to that here in a minute. But as we walk through the book, I want us to pay attention to how the story's moving. It starts with very deep loss, and it ends with this hope. And that's what I want to highlight this morning. And again, I really just want to tell the story. I really just want to do that. But we see how God works through very simple things, through loyalty and daily labor and things of that nature. And so the aim of the message this morning is to trace that movement, how God works in the very simplistic things, and how you can go from a deep loss to a renewed hope. And so that's the goal this morning. So we're going to start in verse 1. If you see me squinting, I have my tiny letter Bible. And my dog, or Sam's dog, ate my glasses, so yeah. Yeah, he doesn't know any better. I was asleep, so the story is I was asleep in the recliner, and I guess the dog, I had my glasses on the side table, so I guess Dewey went over to the side table, grabbed my glasses, jumped off, went to the couch where he takes all of his gifts that he gets from everyone, and starts eating all my glasses. Then I wake up, And Bethany's like, here's your glasses, and they're broken. I'm like, oh gosh. So I need to go to Corpus and all those other fun things. But anyways, verse 1 of chapter 1 in Ruth, now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah. And they came into the country of Moab and continued there. So within 2 verses, we're introduced to the family, and they're already moving because of the famine. So already big problems, and I'm sure most of y'all have moved at some point in time. I remember vaguely moving to Beeville. I do remember moving a large family at Bible college, however. That was entertaining. And so you can imagine packing up everything, getting all the little kids around, pack up your stuff, yelling it and screaming at your kids. I'm sure Mom had to do that a few times to us. But packing up everything and then moving. And mind you, they had tents. They didn't have brick houses or anything. They didn't go to a realtor. Hey, can we buy this house for... Anyways. So we're introduced to the family. We have a famine, and they're moving. Verse 3, and Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died. And she was left and her 2 sons. And they took them wives of the women of Moab. And the name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. And they dwelled there about 10 years. And Mahlon and Chilion died also, both of them. And the woman was left, and the woman was left with of her 2 sons and her husband. So within 5 verses now, most everyone's died. It's only the women left. And so they are now in Moab. They're not in Judah or anything like that. They are in Moab, okay? And the men, the 2 sons, married Moabite women. Now, most people would probably say they're sinful, they're in sin, yada, 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 all those crazy things. God is not at work in these things. But we'll see throughout the rest of the book, God is actually very much at work. Verse 6. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab how that the Lord had visited his people in giving them bread. Wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. And Naomi said unto her 2 daughters-in-law, Go, return each to your mother's house, and the Lord deal kindly with you, as ye have dealt with the dead and with me. And the Lord grant you that ye may find rest, each of you, in the house of your husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. And they said unto her, Surely we will return with thee unto thy people. And Naomi said, Turn again, my daughters, why will ye go with me? Are there yet any more sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? Turn again, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have an husband. If I should say I have hope, if I should have an husband also tonight, and should bear sons, would ye tarry for them till they were grown? Would ye stay for them from having husbands? Nay, my daughters, for it grieveth me much for your sakes, that the hand of the Lord is gone out against me. So now Naomi is trying to convince the Ruth and Orpah to leave. There's no reason for Ruth and Orpah to stay with Naomi at this point. At least Naomi sees that there's no point, and she's just trying to go back. There's no reason for verse 14. And they lifted up their voice and wept again, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clave unto her. And she said, Behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back unto her people and unto her gods. Return thou after thy sister-in-law. And Ruth said, Entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go, Whither thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God. Whither thou diest will I die, and there will I be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if aught but death part thee and me. When she saw that she was steadfastly minded to go with her, then she left speaking unto her. So now Orpah's left off the scene. She's returned back to her home. Ruth is adamant about staying with Naomi, very adamant. And I think Ruth wants to at least be there for Naomi while she's grieving. And she doesn't want to leave a grieving widow. I mean, Naomi's lost her own husband. She's lost both of her sons. And I think Ruth wants to stay with her. And so Ruth says in verse 16 and 17, wherever you're going to go, I'm going. Your people are my people. Your God is my God. And it's a great testament to Ruth's loyalty to Naomi as well. And we'll see that I think this is a great testament to Ruth's faith as well, because we'll see in the following 3 chapters how Ruth's decision really shapes her future. And so we see Ruth's commitment to Naomi. Verse 19, so they went until they came to Bethlehem, and it came to pass when they were come to Bethlehem that all the city was moved about them, and they said, Is this Naomi? And she said unto them, Call me not Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty hath dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, and the Lord hath brought me home again empty. Why then call ye me Naomi, seeing the Lord has testified against me, and the Almighty hath afflicted me? So Naomi returned and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, which returned out of the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem in the beginning of barley harvest. So in chapter 1, we've moved from a broken family of just complete loss to now Ruth and Naomi return home. Naomi tells the people, don't just call me Mara. I'm bitter. I am angry. I'm bitter. I don't know about angry, but I am bitter, and I am upset. Don't just leave me alone. And I think actually no, most. Myself, I would want some space too, in that time. But we get to the end of chapter 1, and there's a glimmer of hope, because now we've entered in the last phrase of verse 22, and they came to Bethlehem in the beginning of barley harvest. So they made it to Bethlehem safely. And now they're entering into a time of barley harvest. So there's a little more hope now. Now we can have food and go back home, and there's some light shining. We can see kind of down the end of the tunnel. And so the story again, just to kind of wrap up chapter 1, story begins with loss and grief. And the timing of the barley harvest shows us that there's some more down the road. All right, so chapter 2 now. And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth, of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabitess said unto Naomi, Let me now go to the field, and glean ears of corn after him, in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, Go, my daughter. And she went and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And her hap was to light on a part of the field belonging unto Boaz, who was of the kindred of Elimelech. So they've arrived home. Ruth is now going to go and take initiative, and she's going to gather up some harvest so she can she and Naomi can eat. And so Ruth goes out to glean some harvest and some wheat. And the word hap, it's really happened. But what's interesting is we want to think this is a coincidence. It may not actually be a coincidence, however, and it's important to remember in our lives we have coincidences, absolutely, not denying those things, but God works in very mysterious ways all the time that we have no clue. I surely don't know anything about. But a lot of things, I would say this, a lot of things we may call coincidences are actually not. And they're actually steps that set people up for future success, I think. And that is not to say that everyone is granted these coincidences, but most of us have these type of coincidences. Anyways, verses 4, and behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said unto the reapers, The Lord be with you. They answered him, The Lord bless thee. Then said Boaz unto his servant that was set over the reapers, Whose damsel is this? And the servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, It is the Moabitish damsel that came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab. And let's see, verse 7, and she said, I pray you, let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves. So she came and hath continued even from the morning until now, that she tarried a little in the house. Then said Boaz unto Ruth, Hearest thou not, my daughter? Go not to glean in another field, neither go from hence, but abide here fast by my maidens. Let thine eyes be on the field that they do reap, and go thou after them. Have I not charged the young men that they shall not touch thee? And when thou art thirsty, should say that, go unto the vessels and drink of which the young men have drawn. So I went a little farther, but Boaz learns of this individual named Ruth now, who's gleaning in his field. And he asks one of his servants, Who is this person? And the servant explains who she is and where she's from and the situation. And I'm sure Boaz is maybe familiar with what's going on kind of right now. He is one of the kinsmen of Naomi's husband, so I'm sure he's kind of connected to the family in some way. But he learns about Ruth, and he hears about her work ethic and things of that nature, and her humility even. She didn't just go and start gleaning, wherever she wanted. If you remember in the law, the Jews were supposed to leave, I believe it was the edges or it was the corners for people outside of their nation, and that they may glean. And she respected that tradition. I mean, that was something that the Jews were supposed to do. And she didn't just go out and start gleaning in the middle of the field. She went to the corner and started gleaning. And so Boaz recognizes her humility and her work ethic, and he offers her kind of this, protection. He says, I've told the men, don't touch you. You can glean with my maidens over here. and the field is yours. Have a wonderful time. You know, glean what you desire, glean what you can. Verse 10, then she fell on her face and bowed herself to the ground and said unto him, Why have I found grace in thine eyes, that thou shouldest take knowledge of me, seeing I am a stranger? And Boaz answered and said unto her, It hath fully been showed me all that thou hast done unto thy mother-in-law since the death of thine husband, and how thou hast left thy father and thy mother and the land of thy nativity, and art come unto a people which thou knowest not heretofore. And the Lord recompense thy work, and a full reward be given thee of the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings thou art come to trust. Then she said, Let me find favor in thy sight, my Lord, for that thou hast comforted me, and for that thou hast spoken friendly unto thine handmaid, though I be not like unto one of thine handmaidens. And Boaz said unto her, At mealtime come thou hither, eat of the bread, and dip thy morsel in the vinegar. And she sat beside the reapers, and he reached her parched corn, and she did eat, and was sufficed, and left. And when she was risen up to glean, Boaz commanded his young men, saying, Let her glean even among the sheaves, and reproach her not, and let fall also some of the handfuls of purpose for her, and leave them, that she may glean them, and rebuke her not. So she gleaned in the field until even, and beat out that she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley. I do not know how much that weighs, but I'm going to assume it's a lot. But Boaz instructs his workers at this point, whatever you gather, toss some or drop some to the side, and let her gather that up. Don't rebuke her for gathering those things up. Don't rebuke her for gathering in the field, in the midst of the field, not just the corners, but in the field itself. Don't rebuke her for those things. And Boaz, this is a very, very much side comment, but Boaz is a great picture of what the law was meant to do. The law was not meant to, of course, be used as the Pharisees used it, and it was not to be used as a beating stick of any nature or anything like that. In Leviticus and really the Pentateuch, that they think, even me sometimes think that those rules are very hard to abide by, and these are unfair rules and things like that. But then we look at someone like Boaz, who is native to Bethlehem and is acting under those laws, and this is his character. That's not a character we typically see of most people. And so Boaz, he notices her character, and he provides protection for her, and he gives her provision beyond what she even came there for. This was even more than she was needing. And he said, Here, this is what I give to you because of how you have treated your mother-in-law despite the death of your husband, and coming to a land that you know nobody of. You don't know any of us here. You're not native to here. You don't know really many or much of our traditions, but you're humble and you're kind, and this is what I'm going to give you in return. And so we'll read verse 18. And she took it up and went into the city, and her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned. And she brought forth and gave to her that she had reserved after she was sufficed. And her mother-in-law said unto her, Where hast thou gleaned today? And where wroughtest thou? Blessed be he that did take knowledge of thee. And she showed her mother-in-law with whom she had wrought, and said, "The man's name with whom I wrought today is Boaz." And Naomi said unto her daughter-in-law, "Blessed be the Lord, blessed be he of the Lord, who hath not left off his kindness to the living and to the dead." And Naomi said unto her, "The man is near of kin unto us, and one of our next kinsmen." And Ruth the Moabitess said, "He said unto me also, Thou shalt keep fast by my young men until they have ended all my harvest." And Naomi said unto Ruth her daughter-in-law, "It is good, my daughter, that thou go out with his maidens, that they meet thee not in any other field." So she kept fast by the maidens of Boaz to glean unto the end of barley harvest and of wheat harvest, and dwelt with her mother-in-law. So, chapter 2, Naomi now, we're closing out chapter 2, Naomi now realizes, after Ruth tells her who or whose field Ruth is gleaning in. And it's one of Naomi's kinsmen, and or Naomi's husband's kinsman. And Naomi begins, we kind of see Naomi's perspective to, her perspective begins to kind of shift from this distraught widow to, this is actually turning out to be a little more hopeful. This is actually something good may come out of this. And she acknowledges even that the Lord still shows kindness even in times of distress and despair. God is still showing his kindness. And so the chapter 2 really highlights how God works through very simple obedience. It doesn't have to be very difficult obedience, just very simple things. He works even through daily labor. He works through human kindness to one another. And Naomi begins to move towards this hope rather than this distress. So now we go into chapter 3. And Naomi's going to start, if you will, working behind the scenes. She's going to start setting things up now. And she's a great mother-in-law this way, you know. So, chapter 3, verse 1, "Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said unto her, My daughter, shall I not seek rest for thee, that it may be well with thee? And now is not Boaz of our kindred with those with whose maidens thou wast? Behold, he winnoweth barley tonight in the threshing floor. Wash thyself therefore, and anoint thee, and put thy raiment upon thee, and get thee down to the floor, but make not thyself known unto the man until he shall have done eating and drinking. And it shall be, when he lieth down, that thou shalt mark the place where he shall lie, and thou shalt go in and uncover his feet, and lay thee down. And he will tell thee what thou shalt do. And she said unto her, All that thou sayest unto me I will do. And she went down unto the floor, and did according to all that her mother-in-law bade her. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of corn. And she came softly, and uncovered his feet, and laid her down. And it came to pass at midnight that the man was afraid, and turned himself, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. And he said, Who art thou? And she answered, I am Ruth, thine handmaid. Spread therefore thy skirt over thine handmaid, for thou art a near kinsman. And he said, Blessed be thou of the Lord, my daughter, for thou hast showed more kindness in the latter end than at the beginning, inasmuch as thou followedst not young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, fear not. I will do to thee all that thou requirest, for all the city of my people doth know that thou art a virtuous woman. And now it is true that I am thy near kinsman, howbeit there is a kinsman nearer than I. Tarry this night, and it shall be in the morning, that if he will perform unto thee part of a kinsman well, let him do the kinsman's part. But if he will not do the part of the kinsman to thee, then will I do the part of the kinsman to thee. As the Lord liveth, lie down until the morning. And she lay at his feet until the morning, and she rose up before one could know another. And she said, Let it not be known that a woman came into the floor. Also he said, Bring the veil that thou hast upon thee, and hold it. And when she held it, he measured 6 measures of barley, and laid it on her. And she went into the city. And when she came to her mother-in-law, she said, Who art thou, my daughter? And she told her all that the man had done to her. And she said, These 6 measures of barley gave he me, for he said to me, Go not empty unto thy mother-in-law. Then said she, Sit still, my daughter, until thou know how the matter will fall, for the man will not be in rest until he have finished the thing this day. I did not mean to read the whole chapter, but that's okay. But beginning of the chapter, Naomi wants Ruth to have rest, and so meaning she wants Ruth to be comfortable and stable and things like that. And so she gives these instructions to Ruth to go to Boaz in the middle of the night and go lay with him. And she does everything that Naomi tells her to do. She does everything. And these things, like we read, probably require some courage. I don't think I would go lay with someone who's a complete stranger, but Ruth goes to Boaz at the threshing floor and asks him to spread thy skirt over thy handmaid, and he does. And this is a request for Boaz to take the role of the kinsman redeemer. And this is the request of Ruth. And Boaz speaks very kindly to Ruth, and he praises her, and he says, we will settle this the next day if this other individual does not take this role. We'll settle this the next day. And Ruth returns to Naomi with a large portion of barley, and I really think this shows to Naomi Boaz's commitment to Ruth, to give someone that much barley. You'd have to either buy it or barter for it, I would think, but just to give it to her, like, here you go. This is what you're going to get. Whatever you can fit in this veil is what you can take home to your mother-in-law, and this very kind of Boaz, very, very kind. And so again, Ruth returns to Naomi, and then she gives she Naomi continues to give Ruth these instructions and to be patient and to wait. And chapter 4, this is the last chapter of Ruth. And is this making any sense? Are we following the story okay? Okay. Hopefully I'm not butchering it. But chapter 4, then went Boaz up to the gate and sat him down there. And behold, the kinsman of whom Boaz spake came by, unto whom he said, Ho, such a one, turn aside, sit down here. And he turned aside and sat down. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, Sit ye down here. And they sat down. And he said unto the kinsman Naomi, that is come again out of the country of Moab, selleth a parcel of land, which was our brother Elimelech's. And I thought to advertise thee, saying, Buy it before the inhabitants and before the elders of my people. If thou wilt redeem it, but if thou wilt not redeem it, then tell me that I may know, for there is none to redeem it beside thee, and I am after thee. And he said, I will redeem it. Then said Boaz, What day thou buyest the field of the hand of Naomi, thou must buy it also of Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance. And the kinsman said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I mar my own inheritance. Redeem thou my right to thyself, for I cannot redeem it. So now Boaz gets a few folks together and explains the situation. Boaz, after he explains the situation, the other kinsman says, I can redeem it. That's something I can do. Boaz says, okay, if you redeem the field of Naomi's, you have to do it with Ruth as well, who's Moabite. And the kinsman says, well, I can't do it now unless I destroy my own inheritance, my own name. And so now it's back in Boaz's court. So now Boaz can inherit the field, or buy the field. And verse 7, Now this was the manner in former time in Israel concerning redeeming and concerning changing, for to confirm all things, a man plucked off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor, and this was a testimony in Israel. So Jake, you and I are going to exchange shoes. I'm just kidding. I know you don't. Huh? A 13? Oh, nice. All right, so Jake and I can do it. Anyways, therefore the kinsman said unto Boaz, Buy it for thee. So he drew off his shoe. And Boaz said unto the elders and unto all the people, Ye are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's and all that was Chilion's and Mahlon's of the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, have I purchased to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off. The people that were in the gate and the elders said, We are witnesses. The Lord make the woman that is come into thine house like Rachel and like Leah, which two did build the house of Israel. And do thou worthily in Ephratah, and be famous in Bethlehem. And let thy house be like the house of Pharez, whom Tamar bare unto Judah, of the seed which the Lord shall give thee of this young woman. So Boaz took Ruth, and she was his wife. And when he went in unto her, the Lord gave her conception, and she bare a son. And the woman said unto Naomi, Blessed be the Lord, which hath not left this day without a kinsman, that his name be famous in Israel. And he shall be unto thee a restorer of thy life, and a nourisher of thine old age. For thy daughter-in-law, which loveth thee, which is better to thee than 7 sons, hath borne him. And Naomi took the child and laid it on her bosom, and became nurse unto it. And the woman, her neighbors, gave it a name, saying, "There is a son born to Naomi, and they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. Now these are the generations of Pharez. Pharez begot Hezron, and Hezron begot Ram, and Ram begot Amminadab, and Amminadab begot Nahshon, and Nahshon begot Salmon, and Solomon begat Boaz, and Boaz begat Obed, and Obed begat Jesse, and Jesse begat David." And that is the story of Ruth. And so what happens in chapter 4, you start with this legal matter, trying to sort out who is going to get the field. And it explained in, I believe, verse 7 that they would exchange shoes. And of course, Boaz had to do this in front of people, so this would not be some, "Oh, I said so, so I get it." You have to do this thing in front of people. And so he did it. He gathered these folks, and they made the purchase of the field, and they exchanged shoes as a receipt of purchase, if you will. And Boaz marries Ruth, and Ruth bears a son, and Naomi nurses the son, and they call the son Obed. And then you go on, Obed begets Jesse, and Jesse begets King David. And that's the end of the story. But hopefully it tracked. The key theme was we started with loss. We started with Naomi's husband dying, Naomi's 2 sons dying. And we go through this story and we find kind of these minor, what we would maybe say are coincidences. And God is not, some may say God isn't working in the first chapter. But then we see throughout the rest of the book, God works through the people. And these minor things, these minor actions, this daily labor, this kindness towards one another, and he works through those things, and then you get this genealogy of Christ where you get Obed and Jesse and David, and you can go on and on. You can go read Matthew, and Matthew tracks that lineage. But it's a great story to say all of this, that in a time of despair, and something that is despair. I mean, this is loss. This is not just potential loss. This is loss. In a time of loss, there are things that we do that may seem like coincidences, that God is actually working through. And at the end of the road, there's actually hope. There's actually something more down that road. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And so this morning, that's really what I wanted to. It's really what I wanted to talk about. There was loss, and we all go through loss in life. I mean, we all do. We all suffer. Everyone does. No one's immune to it. We all go through these things, and a lot of times we ask ourselves, and it's a very common question, why me? Why is this happening? Why does this happen to me? And very common question. It's not a bad question to ask. But it is a great reminder that even small things lead to much greater things that we may not see, we may not experience ourselves, but kindness goes a long way, and it goes back to loving one another. It really does. It goes back to all of that. Loving one another, be kind, and there is actually hope down the road if those things are done. And so that's really just what I wanted to cover this morning, and we are at 11:30, and which is actually a great time for singing. But are there any comments, any questions, maybe any things y'all want to throw out there?
I thought of a couple of things.
Okay.
So, things that are very practical in theology with Ruth. Number one, the way Boaz obeys the law provides direction for how God's going to be working.
Mhm.
And it shows really that the law, really any law, any state law, any law, and particularly the law of the Bible, it's guidelines. It's not a destination. It's not like we have to do the law. That's what we have to do. It's like, no, the law is it's kind of the roadmap. It's not the end point.
It's the railroad tracks.
Yeah, it's the tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And the way the Pharisees got it wrong is they thought it was the end point. Like to do the law. Like that's the thing you have to do. Like, well, no, you stay within the law, and the law provides guidance for where you're actually going. And really, I think any law is like that. Any state, any kind of legislation, and that's what it's supposed to be. It's direction for where you're going. And then the other thing was, it addresses the question of, like, where is God ever? Like, where is he? You know, for instance, like right now, people are probably have differing opinions about where God is. Is he in the tent revival right now that's going on? Where is he? And so Ruth, the book of Ruth says, well, God is in these little acts. He's in Boaz obeying the law so that now Ruth can get in. And so now that she can be a part of this thing, because she in her own life is actually doing the things that God wants done by taking care of Naomi. And so all of these acts are the work of God. Like these are all the work of God, which lead to what God is actually doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes the question in like theology. It's like the question we're all trying to play hide and seek with. Where is God? Is he in the Jehovah's Witness religion? Is he in this religion? And Ruth is like answering, well, this is where God is. This is what he's doing. He's in this activity. He's in this activity. Then you get to the New Testament, and it's like, well, he's in this person now. Now he's in Jesus Christ. This is exactly where he is. And then when Jesus is gone, he resurrects, he ascends, all that. John starts to explain, well, now the work of God is this. This is what it is, 1 John. How do we know we have eternal life? This is the word of God. But those are like some of the most basic questions in theology of like, what's the point of the law? Well, it's not a destination, it's a guideline. Mm-hmm. It's a railroad track that gets you to a destination. Paul would say it's a schoolmaster that gets us to the Messiah. And Boaz understood that. He's like, he doesn't view the law as like an evil or a thing to make profit off of. It's the direction. It's how do we get to this point, to the next point? And then the question of where is God in this? And then it's so crazy that to this Moabite, and the Holy Spirit's like, well, God is in her work. Mm-hmm. He is actually in her faithfulness, in her care of her mother-in-law. That's the work of God. And then the work of God in Boaz is him following the direction of Moses. And now you have fully the work of God to bring about David and then the Messiah and all that stuff. And so it covers these. It's so profound how this little story. It's a great story in itself, but it covers these really deep theological things that everybody asks. I don't know. That's really interesting.
Well, and then adding to what you're saying as well, Romans 5, starting kind of in 3, it says, and not only this, but we also exult in our tribulations, knowing that tribulation brings about perseverance, and perseverance, proven character, and proven character, hope. But hope does not disappoint, because the love of God has been poured out within our hearts through the Holy Spirit who was given to us. For while we were still helpless, at the right time Christ died for the ungodly. For one will hardly die for a righteous man, though perhaps for the good man someone will dare to even die. But God demonstrates his own love toward us, in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. So it kind of shows multiple things, I think, that in the Old Testament, how it how God's character is the same throughout, because they're definitely facing deep grief and perseverance and the testing of character. Because Ruth could have totally just been like, okay, you know what, I'm actually gonna leave, but she stays.
Yep.
And they're also both being tested by, okay, now there's two women alone, unguarded. How are they gonna survive? And God is still showing his faithfulness in there. So that's bringing even more character. And then the reward of that character is they have a kinsman redeemer.
Yep.
And that's a great picture of what God did for us. We
Yep.
are alone. We don't have anybody looking out for us. We are alone and lost in our sin. And then God sends Jesus Christ, who completely covers us. Now we have a home in him. So I was thinking about that in there.
If I could also piggyback off of what you were saying. There's an extra detail thrown in chapter 1 and the way it's built up. The option was not just, it wasn't merely about staying around to help out Naomi. That's practical, that's the way it manifests itself, right? Like that's the practical decision. Am I gonna take care of my mother-in-law or not? Or am I gonna go back to my people? But there is a detail that's thrown in, and I don't think it's on accident. There's a detail that's thrown in that Orpah, the other daughter-in-law, she goes back to her people and to her gods.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The little g
Yeah.
gods.
Tricky.
Ruth doesn't merely stay with Naomi, but she stays with Naomi and her people and her God.
Yep.
Big G. Faithful to the Lord and faithful to the person who is her family.
Right.
And those two things kind of are tied together.
Mhm.
Those two things go together.
Yep.
To be faithful to the Lord inherently involves being faithful to your family,
Right.
the person in front of you, in this case your mother-in-law. And that means sometimes leaving comfort zone, leaving home, whatever. So Ruth isn't only rewarded for just what she does for her mother-in-law, but she's actually rewarded for faithfulness to God.
That's what Boaz says too.
Right, and refusal of idolatry.
Mm-hmm.
Because she doesn't go back to that. She's like, no, this is the God, this is my mother-in-law, we're staying with.
Yep.
So, yeah, there's a good detail in there.
Mm-hmm.
In Hebrews it says that without faith it's impossible to please God, because those who seek him must first believe that he is, and that he's a rewarder
Right.
of those who seek him. So Ruth finds that reward
Mm-hmm.
in faithfulness to the Lord and faithfulness to Naomi, because you can't separate those two
Right.
ideas.
Yep. Anyone else have anything? Any other thoughts?
Good job.
Awesome. Well, Sam, are you ready? Potentially? Sam said he likes requests. He appreciates them. So if y'all have any ideas, any thoughts on a song, I do have one. 52, The Lily of the Valley. We'll sing that one. Yes, yes.
Is there a banjo setting in the keyboard?
I don't know. Is there? Probably.
Guys to pull it out.
So we'll start with 52 if anyone has any other songs.
Lean in.
The Lean In?